when 2 or 3 are gathered, Christ is in the midst of them. So here we are doing holy work. And again, just as a reminder, this is the purpose of this is a colleague group to support each other, network with each other, and develop connections across the Diocese of Indianapolis. It's also to equip you all with some training, and today's focus is on preventative maintenance calendars. It's one of my favorite things because it really helps break ministries out of an immediate reactive stance into a much more intentional, proactive approach to how we do ministry. And then, of course, tons of shared conversations and experience. So feel free to chime in as we go through all of this on what you've worked and learned along the way. We know that in this gathering, there's plenty of experience to go around. So we welcome that as we go. All right, we ready for preventative maintenance calendars?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. All right, so the preventative maintenance calendar, or a PMC, truly is a tool that helps you as a ministry develop a calendar for the behind the scenes rhythms. This comes much more naturally to us with our cars. So let's start thinking in terms of a vehicle, right? Periodically, we have to rotate our tires. Periodically, we have to refill the oil. About every week or so, we have to fill the gas. There's certain things we have to do on a regular basis to keep it in good working order for the long term. Most ministries have not paused long enough to think about what is their preventative maintenance. What are the things that we do every year to maintain this ministry? Often what happens if we don't pause and name these things, then we end up getting very event focused. What's coming next month? I got a plan for that. And then we always have this idea that, oh, come January, things will calm down and then I'll get caught up, right? But as Kelly has just shared with us, inevitably there's a new initiative. We've got to overhaul our safe church practices from time to time. That has eaten up our space. To just hope that we'll have an opening to catch up. So some of these things we know will happen at very predictable times. And so the preventative maintenance calendar really is a written tool. I'm adding some notes into the chat here. It's a written tool of these routine tasks that basically need to happen at the same time each year, by the staff, volunteers, or the committees behind that ministry. Okay. I have done this now in the 11 years I was in full-time youth ministry. The second half of them, I used a PMC. In the early years, I didn't. And we only managed to stay on top of the monthly and day-to-day stuff. What's coming next? And I just was constantly in this kind of triage mode of being busy with programming. As soon as we took the time to think through the PMC, we were able to finally launch new initiatives, come up with a way to expand our budget and have more resources to do the things we've always wanted to, but never had the money to back up and do. So it's a very helpful way to increase capacity. Let me show you an example. I'm dropping it into the chat right now. And if you just click on this template, you should be able to open it up as a viewer. Give me a thumbs up if you've got it up. Okay, great.
Sorry, it's taking a second for me to log in.
Totally fine. All right, you'll see.
I need access.
To open it?
Mm-hmm.
Shucks. Do. All right. Let me come back around to it and see if I can share it a different way to you.
Okay.
Share link, viewer. All right, here's a different one, Laura, coming at you. Let's see
I think Laura's good. I'm the one that.
I know, but I'm having trouble getting the link to that one. So here's
Ah.
a new one we can look at together.
Okay.
All right, you there?
That second link worked, so.
Okay, great. So this is a church-wide preventative maintenance calendar. So since Kelly, you're in a diocesan role, and Laura, you're in a camp and conferences role, this one sort of looks at the bigger picture of the entire church. So again, it's a tool to think about the foundational things that need to happen each year. And then we map it out so that you roughly understand in January, in addition to your programming or vacation or regular staff meetings, these are the big maintenance items that need to happen in the ministry, just in order to keep the trains running on time and to protect the infrastructure that holds the ministry up. So you'll see some of it revolves around planning and programming. Some of it is around calendaring, making sure that if anything didn't happen in December, we're catching up on it now. But here's a very common one. In February is a great time to do your long-term planning for next program year. Again, many churches are in a cycle where their planning is much tighter than that. And in February, they might be thinking about Easter. We would recommend that you stretch out your planning by an annual basis. And in February, you have finished your calendar planning. Then once you've got your calendar planning, you know when your major events are, when your milestone opportunities are, when programs open and close, all of those kinds of things. That allows you to begin volunteer recruitment in February for the next program year.
Mm-hmm.
When we ask somebody to do something 6 months in advance of it beginning, we are far more likely to get a better investment, stronger commitment, higher quality volunteers, and longer tenure in that role. It's just way more purposeful. So if we stretch this out and think about doing all of this work up in January, February, it will improve later on. That includes things like inviting folks to join, letting them know when training events are. So a lot is built around your program calendar so that you can tell people when they're expected to be present, all of those kinds of things. Then in March, you'll see here, we're looking at summer event coordinators, giving out event notebooks, providing information for summer before people go on spring break. Again, we're giving them plenty of heads up to wrap their heads around what's coming, ask questions, meet with you as the staff leader for support along the way. And we're also in March scheduling when we're going to thank our volunteers at the end of June, May, whenever is the end of your program year. So again, a lot of this is just very intentionally stretching out what we already do by naming it in advance. So what we've got here, this is a church-wide example. If you go back to our agenda, and I can drop it in the chat box as well, we have a children's ministry example.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Got that?
Well, it says I need access again.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Let me provide the link this way. And see if that's
Okay.
any-
That worked.
Okay, great. All right, so this children's ministry one will have some of the same kind of big picture things. Calendar planning is January, February. February is the launch of volunteer recruitment season, which will hopefully end by around Easter, May at the latest. This one you'll see also has some specific things to children's ministry. So it's talking about Vacation Bible School for planning that over the summer. that should not begin planning or registration in May for a June VBS to be accessible and thoughtful and fully invitational to members of the church and community. While we're doing long-term planning, you'll notice on this format, next to it, it says, what are our major events this month? So if you scroll down in April, we've got an Easter egg hunt. So as we're planning long-term, we're still doing the day-to-day programming, okay? When we name this, essentially each month as the staff person leading the ministry, you'll be able to know what events we're doing, what small groups, what dinners, whatever your regular rhythm is with your programs. We also know what are the things I need to do to make sure down the road everything is in shape. So essentially you'll have your day-to-day task list and your preventative maintenance list. And these two for that month will provide you clarity. And one of the really fun things about once you create this and have it, it gives you a sense of accomplishment of I'm on track. I've done what I need to do this month to feel good about it. And I know that next month I'll have these 5 or 6 bullet points that I can tackle then. So it helps us learn to space out what we're doing and give ourselves permission to feel satisfied that I'm maintaining the ministry well. So we have a couple examples. I've showed you children's ministry, church-wide ministry. Have I shared the youth ministry one? Have you got that on there yet?
Let me check the link. Says it's opening it. Yep, there we go. So I see the youth one now.
Okay, great. So this youth ministry one is formatted slightly differently. So again, these are just a couple different versions of the same tool, different templates and examples from other churches we've worked with. This one has broken it down by category. So there's the volunteer and staff development category. So this is how do we recruit, train, and celebrate our volunteers and make sure that our staff is getting professional development as well. Are they having their annual evaluations done to make sure that their job description is still accurate and that they're meeting those expectations? So that's a category. Curriculum development is a category. It's not very effective if we name a bunch of events that we're going to do without thinking, what are we trying to accomplish through them? What are the learnings, the experiences, the feelings we want our young people to experience during these? So curriculum is a huge piece of our annual process. Calendars we've discussed, that's a big piece. And then I mentioned budget. We need to make sure that we are planning our budget well and spending it well. And so quarterly reconciling is an effective practice that just needs to be part of our preventative maintenance calendar. Also, as soon as you are more intentional about what we're doing and how we spend our time as staff members on a day-to-day basis from Monday to Thursday when we're not on the ground with our folks, we can create capacity for bigger visioning and strategic development. And so the calendar here has some clear marks where you can really focus on, okay, we keep talking about doing a mission trip. What's that going to look like? How do we move towards that goal? Well, maybe we should get some folks together and talk about what our church feels called to do and how to serve. Maybe we should read some books about toxic charity and make sure we're going about this in a healthy way. Maybe we should do some research. So again, those are the types of tasks that we could map out over time to actually one day reach that goal. This one actually has some responsibilities for the chair of the committee. Hopefully there's some sort of leadership team that the staff is working with. So this particular preventative maintenance calendar is great for that. And then finally, communications. When are we sending out certain things? Is it the fall brochure? Is it the Christmas card? All of those kinds of things. How are we making sure the website is updated? Some of that kind of bigger stuff. Those are the big buckets by sort of theme. They are also broken down by monthly calendar by date below. So you've got it in two different forms here. The nice thing about this is on a committee, you might have one person that is the pinpoint person for calendars. So the whole team is making decisions on it, but this is helpful if you have sort of a liaison that does the budget, a liaison that does the calendar. So just different formats. So when it comes to creating your own, this can feel very daunting, especially for anybody who gets overwhelmed by tasks. So it helps before you even get the template open or try to put it in categories, is just to start with a blank piece of paper or a spreadsheet and put in the 12 months of the year. Okay. So I'm just going to talk through this process, and my hope is that you would use this as sort of a workshop. And so you can pause the video and then try the next step. So the first step is to get a piece of paper, computer document, spreadsheet, whatever is your jam, and make a 12-month breakdown. The first category to put in is budget. What are the things you need to do around money to sustain your ministry? So questions you might ask yourself are, when do I request money? When do I submit that? Who do I need to talk to in that process? And back these up from whatever the deadline is. When do I need to make sure I'm reconciling my account to make sure that we're spending money in accordance to what we requested? All those kinds of things, budget related, plug them into your 12 months. When do those things happen? So this is a great time to pause the video, do that task.
Okay, sounds good.
I will keep going so that others can follow along. The second part is to think about your professional development. Schedule in the annual conference with the group that you like to go to. A very common one for Episcopal leaders is the Forma conference, which is often in January. So if you put that on there, then also make a note for September to register for that conference. Whatever the conference is, you want to make sure you're holding time for attendance and to register in advance. When it comes to self-care of staff, you may also put in there a note of staff vacation, maybe spring break, maybe a week after Easter, maybe it's sometime in the summer. Put those in as well. That way, you know, when you're looking at other things, if August is really full and that's when you take your vacation, you might need to move some things into July to keep you on track. Okay, the third category to add is your calendar planning. Think about your annual calendar and when are your major events. Put those major events in there, and then for each one, go backwards. Think in terms of, when do you have to finalize plans for it? When do you need to organize the team that's running it? When do you need to launch the team that is in charge of it? These are the big ticket things for a preventative maintenance calendar. You don't need to put on here necessarily the detailed stuff of send the reminder email about registration. That probably fits on more of a day-to-day calendar type of planning. These are the big things to make sure we're keeping the process moving on time. Annual calendar is huge, so that's your third one. Now you can pause and fill those in. The fourth category that you want to fill in is your volunteer recruitment, training, and appreciation. It is a highly recommended time in February to launch your volunteer recruitment process. These templates have that included in there already, so you can shift that around. It's hard to recruit a volunteer to a program that is not fully planned. So make sure that you and your leadership team who are making those decisions finalize that calendar and curriculums first, then plug in, or excuse me, at least the calendar first, then start your volunteer recruitment work. We need to make sure we're recruiting them through the spring for the entire next year and summer. You're training them adequately prior to program launching. And we've got intentional points where we're thanking them to different degrees throughout the year. That could be a thank you note. It could be a surprise cookie. It could be an offer of prayer. It could be a fancy celebration dinner or public offering of thanks and worship. Next, we want to make sure we are very intentional about our curriculum development. That is the fifth thing you want to put in here. So when are we deciding about our curriculum? When do we pick what program we're going to use for Vacation Bible School? What do we make sure confirmation looks like? And if we've had any feedback that we want to change something, what's our process for doing that? When do we need to fit that in so that we're ready when confirmation begins? And then finally, remember with those major events on your calendar, you want to go backwards for each one. Okay, so once you've gone through this, I highly recommend looking again at those major events and going backwards, especially for something like a mission trip. If you do a mission in the summer, chances are that summer in 2023, you'll need to book your reservation for the following summer if you want that same program, same week again. So again, let me go through that list. Budget, professional development for staff, calendar planning, volunteer recruitment, curriculum development, and finally, major events. We're going to provide a bunch of template links that you can click on. And if you have any questions about this or you want some help, feel free to reach out to Ministry Architects and we can do some coaching with you individually to finalize your preventative maintenance calendar. This will probably take you 2 to 3 hours to think through carefully. The work you put in now, and it's a living document, you'll have to change it a little bit here and there, but the work you do now will save you significantly more hours and time of headache, last minute scrambles, or missed opportunities that undermine your ability to strengthen your ministry and reach the young people that you're responsible for. All righty, Kelly, you still with me?
Yes, I am.
So good. I sped through that for the sake of our video recording, but do you have any questions?
No, I don't think so. I was just mapping things out on a spreadsheet real quick. And
I was going to say at the diocesan level, we know when convention is, right?
yeah. And so I think one of the things that we do at the diocese is at the start of the year, we have a large whole staff calendar planning meeting where we go through each month and we talk about what's happening that month. And so in a way that's like this, but this is different and it has more detail and more back planning that's very intentional and thorough. Where we do that around here, but we don't have a living document like this where we track it back a couple months.
Well, and the calendar is often what places have to drive this process, but it's helpful to break away from just the events to do some of these other behind the scenes things. So like the budgeting rarely makes it on the calendar unless it's the due date, right?
Right.
We rarely put on there volunteer recruitment as an event, right? But it's a process that needs to be maintained. And then same thing with the professional development. We might say when the conference is, but even being intentional to register for it is a helpful thing to put on there. So
Sure.
I highly recommend if you've already carved out the next half hour for this cohort, we'll wrap this up short and just have a short video that we'll post. And then you can continue drafting your own PMC that will guide your work in a way that gives you a little more confidence of, oh, I checked everything off. I'm in good shape for March and April. It's a really fun thing.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, we will send you this recording when it comes through and a few updates because we'll need to update that page of the website with the upcoming cohorts.
Yes, sounds great.
Awesome. All right, Kelly, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Mary Beth. I appreciate it.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.